All right, so today we finished up the last day of the section of teamwork. And today's section was all about keeping others involved and specifically kind of emphasizing communication and the necessity of it. And what really hit me first, I really connected it to a conversation that I had with a friend a few days ago. We talked about expectations for people. And he said, okay, this person let me down. I said, okay, how did they let you down? He said, oh, they didn't fulfill my expectations. All right, what were your expectations? Okay, talked about that a little bit, and I said, all right, so you told the person that they didn't fulfill your expectations, right? Did you make it clear to them what your expectations were? They said, oh no, I didn't do that. Okay. So they didn't know what your expectations were, and then they didn't fulfill your expectations, right? And they go, yeah, you're right. So what? And I said, okay. So you cannot be upset with them. Because it's really their fault that they didn't fulfill something that they didn't know about? No. And that's the same in a lot of workplaces. You know, bosses will have expectations for people. They say, oh, you gotta do this, but they don't ever vocalize that. They keep it all internal. They're like, okay, I want my people to do this. I want my people to do this. I want my employees to do this and do this. This department should do this. But if they don't ever share that sort of thing, nobody really knows. You know, there was the example in here was about the husband and the wife, and the neighbor owing the husband like $600 or something, and the neighbor comes to the house, wife answers in a robe, and the neighbor says, you know, if you take off your robe, I'll give you $600. So the wife is, again, unknowing that the neighbor owes her husband $600. She does so and receives the $600. Now she sees her husband afterwards, and he says, oh, who was at the door? He says, the neighbor. Oh, did they say anything about the $600 that they owe me? And, you know, they could have easily been avoided with a 10-second conversation. Hey, the neighbor owes me $600. Oh, really? For what? Oh, this, and this. Okay, cool. Right? That's even less than 10 seconds. But a lot of times, that sort of thing is not even, it doesn't even happen. So this section was titled, you know, accordingly, keeping others involved, and that's extremely important. For me, when I went off to college, I came west from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, went down to West Palm Beach, Florida, and you know, I started working freshman year, sophomore year I started working, and junior year I was working, senior year I was working, and multiple jobs every time, and that's just the way I do it. But with those jobs, you know, they don't want to give off 4 weeks for winter break, and living on campus as I did the first 3 years, you can't stay there over winter break. So I had to have the communication with my parents, and I was like, hey Dad, you know, if I'm gonna come stay at your house, I was thinking like this, and this. What do you think about this? I need to work. I need to stay here. I'm gonna make some arrangements with friends. I'll be like, hey Mom, I talked to Dad. You know, I'm gonna stay with him this, and this day. You know, is it cool if we do this, and this? Is that enough for you? Do we need more? Is that good? Is that comfortable? Am I, you know, what's the move? Is it best to fly home? You want me to drive home? What are you thinking? But if I didn't have those conversations, and they're like, hey, you know, it's finals week, right? I'm like, yeah. Well, are you coming home? And if I don't tell them, and I'm like, oh, no, I'm gonna be working. I'm not coming home for 2 weeks. And they're like, oh, well, we already had plans, and we're gonna do this, and this. But we don't have any communication. So that was one of the things that really hit me, because it's vital in professional life and personal life and spiritual life. No matter where it is, communication is so essential. And as was I know the quote was in one of the earlier sections. The most common, I think it's actually in this one on the top here. Yeah, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. George Bernard Shaw said that. And that really is the truth. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. And, you know, you think about this in terms of companies, you think about this in terms of families, you think about this in terms of anything. You know, that you could be working, the husband calls up the wife, hey, you know, I just made dinner, where are you? Oh, I have to work late tonight, I'm not being home until 8 o'clock. Oh, you always come home at 6 o'clock. But if the communication was never there, just an illusion. Oh, did you finish up the project I sent you yesterday? Oh, the deadline wasn't for 2 weeks. That's when we needed to get the project back to the client. I was working on something else. Oh, I needed that today so we could review it and get it to them early. Oh, we're leaving on family vacation. Oh, we are? I thought we didn't know where we were going. Oh, but we decided it. Right, but you didn't tell anybody. And that sort of thing, it keeps reoccurring over and over and over. That is the danger with it all, is that, the lack of communication, the thing that, you think it happened, but it really didn't, it happens consistently. And it keeps happening unless there's an intentional shift. And being the type of person that I am, I've really kind of tried to spearhead this recently, because I'm a very reserved person. I would say personal. I don't like to talk about a lot of things that I do. I just like to do it. And if you see it done, cool, ask me about it. But I'm not gonna share stuff, because I just don't see a point. I don't see a value with that. But what I'm realizing is, the more connected I become, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's professionally, personally, whatever it is, people are not on the same page as me unless I explicitly communicate with them and tell them what's going on. So I've really worked to put that into practice, and I think I've made big leaps especially compared to where I was. There's still some ways to go, but it's always a process, because communication is not always it's not always natural. It's not always like, if I'm doing this, I don't always want to tell somebody about it. Well, you might have to, because otherwise they're going to ask you about it, then they might be upset about it, and then it just causes a lot more energy to be spent. Whereas you could have, you send an email. Say you're the principal at your school. You send an email to the school. Oh, I'm out of the school next week, Thursday, Friday. I have a convention to go to. Okay, now all the teachers know the principal is going to be out of the school next week, Thursday, Friday. Otherwise, they could all be asking each other. They say, "Where's the principal? Where's the principal? I need the principal right now." But they're not there. It could be that could be the case for so many things. If you don't go out of your way to communicate it, the other party likely never understands. So that's the bottom line of what I got out of this, is just keep the team with you and keep them involved too, so that everything is clear, explicit, well-defined, and that they truly understand. Because they might hear something, but that doesn't mean that they listen. But that's a topic for another day. I think that as I really am working through, as I worked through this section in particular, and had conversations with people recently, communication is something that a lot of people are uneducated on. And especially for my age, I'm way ahead of where other people are from my perspective. So that'll likely be one of the next course kind of topics, is that of communication. So we'll leave it at that with today. Leave it at that for today. And tomorrow, start Unstoppable Collective Growth. Finish up the 30-day course here and move on. Put it all into practice, and continue forward. So that's it. Only blessings.